Hello, welcome to Nightmare Flicks. I'm Nate, you're you, and Neve Campbell is Sydney Prescott. That's why I am so ecstatic that she is currently officially in talks to return to the role for Scream 5. Now, yes, she's just in talks, but guys, I'm going to officially go on the record saying she's back. And that's one of my biggest wishes for Scream 5. So let's go ahead and run through my 10 biggest desires for this upcoming Scream film. Let's go ahead and count them down. So right off the top, I mentioned that I want Neve Campbell back as Sydney Prescott. I want Sydney to be in Scream 5. I'm not ready to see a Scream movie that doesn't feature that character. For my money, Sydney Prescott is possibly the greatest final girl of all time. Be sure to comment below your favorite final girl. But like I said, I think they're inextricable at this point. I need to see Sydney Prescott in this film. And you know, the way Neve Campbell has been talking lately, I think it's pretty much cemented that she'll be coming back. I think they're really just ironing out terms of the contract, such as things, like pay, and then also she wants to make sure that Wes Craven is given his due and that what he really built is not put into wrong hands. But she's been speaking so glowingly about the new directors that I think she feels good about it. That's all the more reason I think that she's definitely going to be on board any day now, guys. So I mentioned giving Wes Craven his due. I want to see Wes Craven Easter eggs in this film. Nothing ridiculous. It doesn't have to go as over the top as 2018's Halloween film did with Easter eggs and homages, but I think it would be really nice to really pay tribute to the man that was really the most responsible for this franchise and rejuvenating horror in the 90s. If you think back to Scream 1, there's that fun scene where Wes Craven actually comes in as the janitor and he's wearing the Freddy Krueger attire. You could do something like that. Have somebody in the Freddy Krueger sweater, maybe have a Last House on the left or Hills Have Eyes poster in the background, or get one of these horror movie nerds to just kind of do a bit where they wax poetic about horror and include a bunch of Wes Craven titles. Just do something like that to give love to the man that gave us Scream, this franchise we all love so much. In Scream 5, I want there to be 2 killers. To date, there's only been one Scream film when there wasn't 2 killers, and that was Scream 3, which for me is the worst of the franchise. I don't have much love for the Roman character. But that's what I'm saying. When you think Scream, you kind of think, satire, you think Sydney Prescott, you think 2 killers, you think phone calls. This is an element that I think you have to have. I think it's what really gives this franchise a lot of identity, and it makes the mystery all the more fun and interesting. So definitely give me 2 killers in this next film. I want Sydney Prescott to come back, and I also want Kirby to come back. I've mentioned this in past videos, and some of you have commented, why does everybody want Kirby to come back? Well, I'll tell you, in another video that I have coming out in the next couple days, because I have a lot of bullet points here. I really have created a case that I can present on behalf of Kirby. So if you're interested in hearing that, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so that you get that video and you can get the full rundown on why Scream 5 needs to include Kirby. When I was talking about 2 killers, I mentioned that the satire is potentially, the biggest or one of the biggest aspects of a Scream film. So I'm very eager to see what this new team will try to tackle. Modern horror is much different than really any other time in horror because we have streaming and there's so many different types of horror out there. We live in an age of elevated horror with like A24 films, but also true crime right now is just blowing up between streaming and podcasts. There is such a craze around them. People get talking and they go into social media and it's so popular. So what do you think that they will tackle? When you think modern horror, what do you think of? Because it's kind of hard to completely wrap your mind around what modern horror is. It's not as narrow as it was in, say, the 80s or the 70s or even the 90s, where, they found one thing and they really just hammered it home, or even a few years ago in the 2000s when, Paranormal Activity is big, and so we just got a ton of possession and ghost films. Everybody just chases what one thing worked really big. Right now though, there are all sorts of avenues, there's all sorts of things going on, so I don't even know where they're gonna go with this, but I can't wait to see. Be sure to comment your ideas below. I think in Scream 5, one of the legacy players, one of the big 3, they need to die. It needs to happen just to show that not, everybody is safe, that there are real stakes in this film, and my vote is for Dewey. Now, Dewey's had a lot of run-ins to where he probably should be dead by now, so much so that it's become a fun internet theory that Dewey is actually this mastermind behind all of the killings. I'm not on board with any of that ridiculousness, but the man has been extremely lucky. So, I think his character is maybe the least strong between Sydney, Gale, and himself, so I'm gonna vote for him. And that brings me to my next point. I want Dewey's death to be a sacrifice. I just don't want him to be offed in some lackluster fashion. I want it to count. I want him to go out a hero. I want him, if he's gonna die, I want it to matter. I want it to be a really poignant, emotional moment. Maybe have him throw himself in harm's way in order to save Gail. In my mind, these two characters are divorced. They're really struggling in their marriage in Scream 4. So maybe that has been, it's torn apart. And at the beginning of the film, they're still butting heads, but when push comes to shove, Dewey still loves Gail so much so that he jumps in harm's way, he takes one for her, and then you get that moment where maybe the killers run off and Gail's holding him and you see the life journeying out of Dewey. You hear the Dewey theme one last time. I think it would really hit audiences right in the hearts, and like I said, I think it would elevate the movie. So let Dewey sacrifice himself, let Dewey go out a hero. Speaking of Dewey's death, I think this film needs to have some gruesome kills. As a huge Scream fanboy, one of the things I most hate is that fans from other franchises look at Scream and they say the kills are so whack and so lame. It's just people getting stabbed once and then they fall on the ground dead. And there's sometimes a little truth to it, although if you look back at that Drew Barrymore kill in the first film, that is one of the greatest opening sequences to any movie. The chase is there, the tension is there, and it's actually pretty gory and emotional for a kill scene. And I think if you look at Scream 4, when the girl gets thrown around her room and disemboweled and her floor pretty much looks like the floor of a slaughterhouse, occasionally they will do really visceral, intense kills, and I think this movie needs to have 2 or 3 of them. The opening sequence should have that, and then there should be another one maybe in the middle or towards the end of the movie, just to really keep you on the edge of your seat and realizing that this movie is not gonna leave any stone unturned and that they're out for blood, and that, like I said, our major players, they're not safe. So I think that would be great. I think it'd be a good way to get some scares, and also to get those other fan bases to shut up. Now, I want 2 killers, but we've seen that. So how do you make it different? Because Scream needs a twist. I am proposing that the twist be one of the killers gets away and we don't even find out who it is. That a couple suspects are left living and it carries over to the next movie to where we don't actually know who was the other killer, who was in on it. The other killer that was unmasked, they can't rat him out because they do bite it. They get killed. We haven't seen this before. I think it could be a cool little twist that I don't think anybody would really be suspecting. So, maybe out of left field, maybe a terrible idea on my part, but I haven't heard anybody else propose it. And I'm like, hey, I'm putting it out there. I think it could work. What do you guys think? And lastly, I started this list by saying I want Sidney Prescott in this film. I want Sidney Prescott to survive. I don't want Sidney Prescott to die in a movie that is not directed by Wes Craven. That just feels so wrong. If you have to make her take a little bit of a backseat and serve as a mentor in this film so she can pass the baton on to Kirby or whoever the new protagonist is going to be, I'm completely fine with that. Give her a couple really cool moments. Let her have her heroic touches as well. But don't kill her. I think that would be so wrong. I don't think many of us want that. And also don't make her the killer, because that would completely just ruin everything that's built up. You could no longer go back and watch Scream, the first one, and then have in your mind that eventually she's gonna go spiraling and end up being a killer herself. It would completely just kind of mess the franchise up. Don't do that. Don't kill her. Let her ride off into the sunset. If anybody deserves it, Sidney does. So don't kill Sidney Prescott. So there you go, guys. Those are my wishes for Scream 5. I can't wait to hear what yours are. Be sure to comment them below. And like I said, I'm going to have a video coming out where I tell you why Kirby should come back and maybe be the protagonist of Scream 5. So if you want to hear about that, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. You have a fantastic day, though. I'm Nate for Nate Merflick saying that's a wrap.